some of them trying to return to activities that are detrimental to us? Absolutely. That's been true of all the prisoners that were released from Guantanamo. There's a certain recidivism rate that takes place. I wouldn't be doing it if I thought that it was contrary to American national security. And we have confidence that we will be in a position to go after them if, in fact, they are engaging in activities that threaten our defenses. But this is what happens at the end of wars.
All right, folks. The president today in Poland. Don't worry. If these Taliban thugs return to terror, we'll get them. We had him. Joining us now is Oliver North, host of Fox News' War Stories and the author of an exciting new novel, which is out, I believe, right now or next week, Counterfeit Lies, the one and only Oliver North. Hello, sir.
Brother, it's great to be with you, and I love that soundbite.
Oh, my God.
It tells you how incredibly screwed up this administration is. The theory being that we can release bad people who we know go back on the battlefield because it's been done by, quote, previous administrations, which obviously, therefore, it's Bush's fault. It is inconceivable to me that unless he is going to drone them now on the way is somewhere traveling around Qatar, then it makes absolutely no sense. Think about what it means, this whole process that's been done here. 5 terrorists who have killed Americans in the past or controlled those others who do, who've killed dozens, if not thousands, of others in that part of the world, particularly Shiites. Those 5 people are now not only at risk, not only risking the lives of American servicemen when they walk away from Qatar, whether it's next week or next year, they're threatening the lives of every single American by what they've done. Think about this. Every American traveling, doesn't matter if you're going to Denmark or Dubai, every American is now vulnerable to being grabbed and turned into a hostage. Interesting, by the way, that the words prisoner of war keep being bandied about by this administration.
Yep.
Bo Bergdahl was not a prisoner of war. The Geneva Conventions, the International Committee of the Red Cross, our own laws define what a prisoner of war is. Bo Bergdahl was a hostage. Now, I've got certain experience dealing with Americans who have been held hostage. Every one of those kinds of events begins with some kind of negotiation about a transaction. Okay, that's number one. There will be a transaction. Number 2, there has to be proof of life. And number 3, there has to be at some point verification that the people we are talking to, either directly or through intermediaries, in our case it was the Iranians who were the intermediaries with the Beirut hostage holders, that you're verifying that those people can control an outcome that is favorable to our side. What is favorable? The safe return of Americans from captivity as hostages. In other words, release. I've been involved in dozens of these. The very first one was a U.S. Army, senior U.S. Army officer taken by the Red Brigades in Italy. The next one was missionaries in Sudan. And the ones after that were those held in Beirut, and others held in places like Colombia, and other places like missionaries in the Philippines, and some cases reporters. I've had to do them all. I understand how it works. It is a terrible, terrible thing to have to sit down either directly with the bad people who've got them or with intermediaries and decide on the price that's going to be paid for an American citizen to get free.
And by the way, this wasn't the Taliban holding him.
Exactly.
This was the terrorist group holding him. I mean, a real hardcore terrorist group. Taliban a terrorist, but this was a known terrorist group.
Well, and so we know. I mean, and Brad Thor wrote a piece for the Blaze yesterday that is spot on. And I know the people with whom he has been speaking because I introduced those guys. That the reality of it is that what we've done is to fund a criminal enterprise called the Akani Network.
Right.
And someone is paid an enormous ransom, not just the 5, which is bad, but worse yet, someone paid a ransom, whether the Qataris paid it or some big oil sheik or somebody used our petrodollars, but there was a ransom paid in cash for each one of them. My guess, somewhere in the round numbers of $5 or $6 million to get Bergdahl free.
Wow.
I know that the offer that was on the table before was close to $1 million.
You know, Ali, he says he slyly says that we talked to Congress about this. I heard Mike Rogers say today that that was in 2011,
right,
and there has not been another talk since that time. And at that time, the administration was told, don't release these people.
Yep.
I mean, so the being free with the words, and I call them what I believe they are, the lies that this man tells over and over again. And don't you love now that these are prisoners of war? The Taliban that were held in a Gitmo are prisoners of war all of a sudden, and yet these are the guys they want to bring to New York City to criminal court.
Yep. Well, they'll never serve a day in jail for what they did to Americans and what they've done to others. They could easily be back in the battlefield tomorrow, certainly within a year. And whether they're on the battlefield themselves making the IEDs or blowing themselves up in front of some U.S. installation, Americans, every American is now at greater risk.
All right, now Bergdahl, let's talk about him. I mean, first of all, you know, Ralph Peters, your colleague at Fox yesterday told us it's unheard of to have the people in his platoon and his outfit signing non-disclosure forms as they were made to do about his disappearance. But those notwithstanding, many of these people are talking. And to a man, to a soldier who served with him and was there when he left, they say he deserted. They say lives were lost because of his desertion. They say he does not deserve to be rescued in this manner. Well, how unusual is that, and do you agree?
Well, I don't agree with all of that. Look, I helped. I was brought in with the mission of doing what I could to help obtain the release of an American who was held hostage, okay, without a whole lot of consideration for how he had got to be a hostage. I've seen the comments made by those with whom he served. I've seen them on the Internet. I've seen the interviews that have been done on Fox. Here's my advice to everybody. Count on the military judicial system working as it should to investigate the circumstances under which he found himself in the hands of the Haqqani network. All right? Number one, it is better, it is fairer than anything else. I know. I asked for a military court-martial back in the 1980s, okay? And the special prosecutor wasn't about to let me have one, so I ended up in U.S. District Court. The bottom line is the military judicial system should, and it will if the politicians don't stop it, they should convene an Article 32 investigation. There should be, if warranted, a prosecution, and every fact in this should come out. He will be given all the opportunities in the world. It's the only judicial system in which the defendant gets to pick those who sit in judgment. I mean, it truly is a far better system, far fairer system of choosing your peers to sit on your jury, okay? And so the facts will come out. But I don't believe right now is the time to be bringing those out, because witnesses ought to be brought forward to swear under oath to what they know, and then define at that point whether there ought to be a process by which there is a court-martial. And I think it's very simple. I also think it's wrong to speculate about what the outcome would be. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, we're all looking for the Malaysian airplane, and people are speculating as to where it went. Let's find out. Is the military going to – the call ought to be for a full investigation of the circumstances of his release. That's number one. And there needs to be an Article 32 investigation convened, and people ought to just stop talking about, you know, the circumstances under which he came to be a hostage.
Let me ask you a couple more.
Real quick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's focus on the book, Counterfeit Lies.
Hey.
You got to be very excited about that. It's a very exciting military novel.
One more, and it's all about how are the Iranians going to sign an agreement that says the International Atomic Energy Commission, the so-called international community, is going to make sure the Iranians are not building a nuclear weapon and the means of delivering them. It's all about the true story of how they're getting away with it and why they're going to agree to this treaty, which, by the way, is coming out in the next 30 days.
Great. So, all right, we look forward to it. Ali, always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you for making the time.
Appreciate you, man.
Take care. Bye. Ali North, ladies and gentlemen, host of Fox News War Stories, and very, very interesting indeed. Basically telling the soldiers who have been speaking out to stop talking and to count on the military judiciary or judicial branch for justice to be brought to the sergeant, no matter what that means or what the outcome will be. All right, we're coming back with the Malzberg panel next on the Steve Malzberg Show.